Welcome back, everyone, to AFFCNY's pre-conference interview series. I am Shemin Vizzi. Let's take a look at the second interview with this workshop presenter for this year's conference. I'm going to start off. Why don't you introduce yourself, and why don't you tell everybody in the community a little bit of how you're connected to adoption and foster care if they don't know who you are.
All right. Hi, my name is Chester Jackson, and I'm the Helpline coordinator here at the Adoptive and Foster Family Coalition of New York. I've been involved in the world of adoption since 1990. Well, actually, I've been involved in the world of adoption since 1958, but professionally, I've been involved in the world of adoption since 1990. I've done just about everything you can imagine in the field in terms of a little bit of casework, although I'm not a social worker. I've done a little bit of administrative stuff. I've done intake coordination. I've done all the amazing aspects of dealing with the children and dealing with the parents. And I'm also an adult adoptee and a late discovery adult adoptee, which is an added wrinkle, which means I didn't find out until many, many, many years into my journey.
So this year, we are going to have, your workshop title is Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now. And why don't you explain a little bit of what you're going to be talking about under this title, the description a little bit?
Yeah, I have the eternal question of, what would you do differently if you could change everything? I'm always thinking about that. I'm frequently asked that. And the long and short of it is, I wouldn't change anything. It's the long and short of it. And basically, I hope it's going to be a lively conversation about the implications of grief and loss, how that brings us to adoption and foster care, and what we can do to make the best of it.
Have you ever presented something like this before at conferences?
I have not presented at a conference before, although it is kind of a running theme in my life. I have constantly talking about ambiguous grief and loss and how it impacts adoptive parents and adoptive.
How do you feel that your story is going to help others in the world?
I think loss and grief are universal experiences. And whether you're adopted or whether you're an adoptive parent or whether you're a parent, whether you're a human being, you have some experience with loss and grief. And it's one of the things that in adoption, we really, in life in general, we try to avoid the painful. And in adoption, it really becomes a double bind if we avoid something that's really critical to our moving forward.
Why do you feel that your perspective is so important to share with the community? And basically, why did you decide to take this story and have this open conversation to a conference?
A number of things. I think my experience in general, the key element of it for me that I think is interesting and impactful is the fact that I went through my whole, I was 33 years old before I discovered that I was adopted. I was already working in the field of adoption. And I went through that whole developmental up and down and being angry and happy and sad and confused and all of the complexities of it in public as a person who was talking to adoptive parents in particular and young people who were in foster care. So I went up and down, and it really gives me kind of almost like a 30,000-foot view, like I'm looking down on it. So even though I was talking about things that were happening in my life, it was from the perspective of the outsider. It was the perspective of a family, from the perspective of a father and a professional, and always from a distance.
Why don't we take the second? Why don't you explain to everybody, since it's not conference related, but something what you do, why don't you tell everybody, since we're using this platform, what's the helpline? What can we do about the helpline? I always like to put that out, especially since you work for AFFCNY. While I have you, why don't you tell everybody what exactly can you do for the helpline? Is it just something like, if it's an emergency, we call you?
No. It's a portal to a multiverse.
Yes.
If you have a general question, if you have a specific question, if you don't know who else to call, the beauty of my job is I don't have to know the answer, but I do know where to go to find it, or where to guide a family to. Sometimes I get folks who call me up and they want to talk to somebody. They want to vent. They want to reminisce. They want to do whatever. I mean, it's the full gamut. It is not a hotline, not in the sense that I don't get generally folks, calling in crisis. It's not about that. It's really more about, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I'm seeing the ad in the paper or I saw something online and I'm just going to call. And it's a 24/7 line. So I do get calls at all strange hours. Whenever the mood or the interest strikes folks, they call me with all kinds of questions and I'm happy to hear them.
Awesome. Lastly, just say one more thing about why everyone should come to this year's conference. Give a little plug for the conference of why is it so important for anyone, professionals, adoptive, kinship, guardianship, foster families. Why should they come to this year's conference?
Yeah, if you're involved in this work on any level, I mean, if you have any interest in it on any level, you need to be exposed to the many very facets of the work and the life. And that's one of the things that an organization like the Coalition brings to conferences and to the industry is we have somebody with a foot in every inch of this world. Birth parents, adoptees, foster children, foster parents, uh, anything you can imagine, we have somebody with that experience. And the conference is going to be a nice microcosm of that very same fact that there's something in there for everybody. Simple as that.